Inaugurated amid the euphoria of liberation from military rule, several decades of democracy have failed to banish division, poverty and insecurity in Nigeria. And joining me to discuss this is political columnist and gender advocate Nnedinso Ogaziechi. Good to have you join us.
Hello, and happy independence.
We wish you the same. Now, when you look at the history books, all that we talk about today, it looks like a lot of respect and regard is being given to the role that the men played, which as it should be. But help us understand the role that women also played in our quest for independence.
Okay. It's a socio-cultural and almost religious thing that women, especially in Nigeria, the role of women in leadership and politics have been almost insignificant in the sense that the pre-colonial role of women in leadership was almost swept away by the colonial masters, in the sense that before the colonial, in present times in Nigeria, there were, women provided leadership at various levels, politically, socially, and even religiously, because you have the priestesses, you have the women who fought for social changes and all that. But when the colonial people came, it was like they empowered the men, empowered them in the sense that they were coming from an environment where women were minors. They didn't have the kind of history we had in Africa where women provided leadership. So it's understandable that the empowered men, socially and politically, took the stage. And even when we know of history of the Margaret Ekos, the Fumilayo and some Kutis, the Shawabas, that went to negotiate for independence. But today, they are just in the history books. But the role of women, there hasn't been an inclusive kind of leadership, an inclusive kind of governance, including women. But it is a structural thing which can be changed. The tokenism we have about women, there are women in leadership, they make them women affairs commissioners or ministers, or it's just a sprinkle. The women mainly dance for campaigns and all that. So we are not even talking about the military era, where it was almost the only woman that tried to bring up women issues was the late Semeriam Babangida, who started the women, rural women, better life for rural women thing. But she had no executive power, so it was mainly an initiative she was pushing. So, but as it is, we can see the results. We can see the results of non-inclusive leadership with women, because the idea that men can do it alone, we've seen the results. We've seen that we are not really doing as well as we should do, because before the colonial times, you found that women were in charge of certain things, in charge of probably social issues like markets and other things, while men were territorial. They fought wars and all that, but women still had input in leadership. But these days, we don't have an inclusive kind of leadership.
All right,
but you can see the result.
Which is where I want to go to, because you mentioned some names, but those names are few. Does it speak to the fact that even in that era where people talked about the national identity, national plan, and national dream, that even women were not included? As great as that era seems, in the history of Nigeria.
Yeah. It's I think beyond politics, we still have cultural issues. We have, for instance, let's take in the East, for instance, there are issues of leadership. A child, it starts from the home actually. It starts from the home where when you have, if a woman doesn't have a male child, it's seen as incompetence to a level. Incompetence in the fact that you are not, you are seen as lacking something. And that is why you see people, oh, I'm going to marry a second wife to give me sons, to inherit this and inherit that. So the essence of leadership, and ironically, it is the women who groom these children, who groom the boys to be leaders. So, but you still find in homes where you see women, mothers, for instance, maybe you have two sons and you have three daughters and maybe a son, and the son might be the last child. And probably they are leaving the house, it's like, oh, Peter, take care of your sisters. So at that time, that is when we cede leadership to the male. So it's a patriarchal thing which starts from the home, ironically, which women are the ones in charge at that level. So it grows like that, then sociologically, it is seen as, oh, you can't, the woman gets married, for instance. So it is seen as a disadvantage. You get married, you go to your husband's place, you are seen as a visitor still. You are seen as, if you want to assess leadership at that level, you'll be told to go back to where you come from. Or if you're not so good, if you are even in your own environment, if you're not married, so that you seem to lack that kind of empowerment. Marriage is seen as a plus. So if you're single, if you're divorced, if you're separated, you're seen as half human almost. So such sociological factors and even religious at some level, because religion will tell you, oh, you're not supposed to be seen, a woman is not supposed to be seen, you're supposed to stay at this level and all that. But in the past, it wasn't that way because you had female priestesses, you had goddesses, you had, like in Igbo land, you have the Anni. Anni is almost addressed as a woman because it's in charge of fertility and other good things, you know. So, but politically, it's a chain effect of our cultural issues. It's a chain effect of how we raise our kids. Why is it that a girl child is seen as a half child almost? You know. Right. So it is at that point that the disempowerment starts. Then she grows to be groomed to be married, to appeal to the husband, to be a good wife. Nobody trains a woman to be a good leader. Very few men empower, give that kind of validation to their daughters. So it comes, yeah.
So we will get to how we can include women later, but I know that you are a gender advocate, but you're also a political columnist. So let's get to this issue of what really happened in that era or after that era. Now, a lot of people continue to point to the 1966 coup as a point where we changed the trajectory of this country. Where exactly is that?
It's changed the trajectory because force is force. You understand? If you use force, when it comes to struggle and to fight, it is the men. So it is the men do the shooting. If you're talking of military, how many women are in the military? If you're talking of coups, who carries out, that's violence. So women are not known to be violent. Women are nurturers. Women are, they build, they don't destroy. So if a woman comes, that is why it is a global thing. It's not like it's restricted to Nigeria. That is why you have refugees. You have the IDPs. It's mainly women that are there because women don't destroy. So destruction comes with military coups because lives are lost. Very few are bloodless, but even then, it is maybe probably to the public. So from when this coup started, the women withdrew from active participation because they can't fight. It's not an equal. It's not. You can't. Women don't destroy anyway. We are natural. So that was when the exclusion, the solid exclusion, started actually. because it came with violence, it came with authority. Authority was abused by the men, and no woman wants to go kill another woman or something, or kill men or whatever. So I think that's basically the thing. So it's now, I mean, how many coups did we have before, from then till 1979? So with military, I mean, even the men, not all men are included. So when you check that, you notice that it's really a gradual structural destruction of leadership process.
All right, so we know that the National Assembly right now, there is, at the National Assembly, we're seeing that constitutional amendment, and there are about 13 thematic points to be fixed that are looking to amend, and one of them is gender equality. How optimistic are you about that? That look, when we address this issue from that legislative point, that things could be better for women?
Yes, it's good to have ambition. It's good to have aspirations, to aspire that, oh, this will happen, we'll do this, and this will happen. But there's a problem. I see a problem of democracy is about numbers, democracy is about voice, votes. And when you go to the National Assembly, you know the percentage of women in the House of Representatives and just about 7, 8 women in the Senate. So if there's a bill for whatever law they are talking about, if the men don't decide that, look, we are going to include women, or we are going to listen to them, or we are going to be objective, it takes someone like a Lee Kuan Yew, for instance, to know that your graduates, your female graduates marrying outside Singapore, for instance, affects the economy, affects the productivity they will have brought into play. So it is, I am optimistic, but not too optimistic. It will be delusional to say, oh, look, it's going to pass, because we've watched through how there are bills raised about something like child marriages, and it is shouted down, or it even dies before it is presented, because you notice that some men are actually married to minors. Some men in the National Assembly are actually married to minors. So how do you get that done? So, but I still believe that we need awareness. We need to grassroots awareness, telling women that, look, leadership is not about gender. There are men who are supportive anyway. It is not an all-inclusive thing. I know women who are supported by their husbands, whose husbands even go to get forms for them. But it's still very little and very insignificant at this point. Right, then again, on the side of women, there are still this apathy about, okay, it doesn't matter. I mean, leadership is for men. It doesn't matter. It doesn't affect my Gary or something. So most women are not even politically conscious, in the sense that they should know that giving votes, democracy is about votes, and if women are the voters, then you can vote women in. But that's another problem, because you find the few women in politics, very few of them are mentoring other women and being gender advocates, including telling women, look, it is possible. If I can be here, you can be here. But in some sense, they have this, some of them, most of them actually, have this sense of triumphalism. The moments they are there, they feel, oh, we belong to the men now. And nothing is done to groom other women, to tell them, like, look, leadership, politics is not gender sensitive. We must be there. We must start from the grassroots. Right. It's not enough for anybody to jump out and say, look, I want to be governor. I want you to make women this, woman that. No, the women must go and work. All right.
You raised a point earlier. You touched on something that I want to stay on. You talked about how we're just a few women in the National Assembly, and it looks like that's a concern for you, that men will be legislating on the affairs of women. But isn't that a plus? Yes. Isn't that something we've always advocated for? That, look, we need men who understand these issues of women. So in that regard, wouldn't that be a plus?
No, it can't be a plus, because the natural instincts of all humans, male, female, is to protect what you gain from. Right? And if a legislation gets up in the House of Reps and tells the four wives to stand up as trophies, as women is in control of at home, nobody is talking of what talents those women can bring to production. Nobody is talking of what they can contribute to nation building. But they lacked, I mean, both men and women lacked. So it is not it can never be a plus. If we are talking of Rwanda, for instance, Rwanda has about more than 60% of women in their parliament, which is the global highest. Look at the Rwandan economy, what is happening. You see Rwanda is now a business and tourism hub. Why? Because voice in democracies, the legislative arm is a very powerful arm. And if the voice of the women are heard more there, it is not about men can't do, no. There's no way most men would say, okay, let's ban child marriage, for instance. There are pedophiles all over. There are pedophiles at all levels of all sectors. So it's not just at the National Assembly. But what I'm saying is, no, the men cannot speak for us. They can't speak for the women. There must be an inclusiveness that brings in the best women. It is not a tokenism. It's not about women affairs commissioner or women affairs minister or welfare officer or whatever. No, we want women who are capable and able and willing. They are two different things. It's okay to aspire to leadership, but it's more important to have the capacity, have the cerebral capacity, have the experience, be ready to serve. Because what we lack in leadership in Nigeria is mostly the willingness to look beyond self. Because if you look at all the countries that are making progress, there must be a policy of inclusiveness that celebrates the best brains, that takes into effect the fact that human resources is the best resource you can have. It is only human capital. Resources, oil won't do it for you, coal won't do it for you, diamond won't do it for you. It is the human capital that would harness all the resources you have to the best form and for the development of the country.
All right, so we hope we continue to we hope that we continue to find ways to emphasize the role that people like Funmilayo Ramson Kuti and Margaret Ekpo played in the history of our country. Nnedinso Ogaziechi, political columnist and gender advocate. Thanks for talking to us.
All right, thank you.